Most people assume the ultra-wealthy achieve their status simply by securing a higher salary and tracking their daily expenses more closely. However, relying on a paycheck ignores the specific mathematical advantages that actually drive the top 1%. The math of the standard salary loop is inherently limited. Active income is the most aggressively taxed revenue stream in existence, and your earning potential hits a hard ceiling the exact second you run out of working hours in a day. While the middle class manages a two-dimensional game of income minus expenses, the elite operate in a three-dimensional framework of asset equity, tax-free leverage, and compounding velocity. Generational wealth follows a rigid set of structural rules and equations. By identifying these specific mechanics, the system becomes something you can reverse engineer. Escaping the financial treadmill requires moving beyond the traditional salary playbook and utilizing the same mathematical tools used by old wealth. This strategy begins with how you categorize a single dollar. Instead of seeing currency as a token for immediate lifestyle consumption, the wealthy view every dollar as an individual worker whose sole purpose is to reproduce and bring back more capital. They systematically route their active income away from standard bank accounts. Instead, they deploy that capital to buy up pieces of the global economy, specifically targeting broad market index funds and commercial real estate. Active salary collides directly into a massive income tax block, but routing cash into equity bypasses high tax brackets entirely, flowing straight into your net worth pool. Once converted, this equity independently generates new capital in the background, completely isolated from the income tax block. Prioritizing asset ownership over an active paycheck removes the ceiling on a household's earning capacity while shielding that capital from immediate tax depletion. If the ultra-wealthy systematically lock their money into assets and never sell them, they still must find a way to fund their daily lives. Most investors fund major purchases by cashing out their profits, but this triggers the capital gains trap, a tax penalty that immediately strips away a portion of the portfolio's value. The elite bypass this using a framework known as buy, borrow, die. Instead of treating an appreciating asset portfolio like a piggy bank to break open, they use it as structural collateral to secure a bank loan. Side A shows a traditional asset sale, resulting in a steep 20% capital gains deduction. Side B shows the collateral loan, yielding tax-free cash. Because the loan is classified as debt, the original asset value remains entirely untouched. This creates a mathematical arbitrage, allowing the portfolio to continue growing at a trajectory that easily outpaces the bank loan. When the owner eventually passes away, their heirs inherit the intact assets at a stepped-up basis, which legally erases decades of deferred capital gains taxes. By treating assets as collateral rather than currency, the elite access the cash they need to fund their lives without ever triggering a taxable event. While standard middle-class investors treat a dividend check as bonus cash for a vacation, the top 1% treat cash flow as raw ammunition. They utilize dividend reinvestment plans, or DRIP, to establish a highly efficient, closed-loop financial ecosystem. The moment an asset produces a dividend, an algorithm automatically redirects that cash to purchase fractional shares of that same asset, driving up the total share count on the central tracker. Over a long timeline, this automated feeding mechanism causes the compounding velocity to accelerate, moving the portfolio from linear growth into a steep exponential curve. This relentless compounding unlocks a concept called yield on cost. Because you are constantly accumulating more shares without contributing new cash, the actual dividend return on your original investment eventually reaches double-digit percentages. Automating this reinvestment creates a self-replicating engine that makes it mathematically difficult for a household to ever face liquidation. The framework used by the top 1% functions as a mechanical system that can be initiated from a smartphone today. The mandatory first step is ruthlessly zeroing out your consumer liabilities. This means refusing to pay interest for depreciating assets like cars or clothes. Next, protect your remaining capital by anchoring it directly into broad corporate productivity through automated index funds and hard physical assets. To avoid the lifestyle creep trap, you must fully automate your reinvestment sequence, allowing the equations to execute perfectly without human emotional interference. Leaving your accumulated wealth sitting completely idle inside low-yield checking accounts guarantees it will be slowly eroded by inflation. Trading hours for money makes you a permanent servant to the system. Forcing your capital to work makes you the owner of the machine.